My name is Ruth Ann Parker, and the sound of that gavel still lives in my bones. The judge said my son wanted custody of the 3 children I've raised for 12 years. Children he left on my porch one rainy night, saying, "Mom, it's just for a month." A month became a year. A year became a childhood. And I became their mother in every way that counts. When he finally came back, it wasn't for hugs or forgiveness. He came with a lawyer and a plan to take the children and the money tied to their mother's death settlement. But what he didn't know was that I'd kept every paper, every receipt, every call log inside a blue binder cracked at the edges from years of opening it on my kitchen table. And inside that binder lay one envelope he never expected. A letter written by the children's real mother, sealed with her hand and her truth. The day that letter was opened, everything changed. That's how I learned that love has rules, and the truth always finds its paper trail. The judge's gavel lands and the sound goes through me like winter through a drafty window. I sit up straighter on the hard bench, palms pressed against a blue 3-ring binder I've been building for 12 years. The plastic cover is cracked at the edges from being open and shut so many nights at my kitchen table. It smells faintly of copier paper and the Vicks I rubbed on my chest last January when I thought the flu might take me out. I am Ruth Ann Parker, 68 years old, widow of Tom Parker, mother to 1 son, Caleb, and grandmother to 3, Lily, Ben, and Nora. We live in Grove City, Ohio, where the maples blow their leaves across everybody's yard without caring whose rake is whose, and where the same usher has said good morning at Maple Street Baptist since the Carter administration. I keep coupons in a magnet clip on my fridge, write my bills in blue ink, and I know where every piece of paper in this binder came from and why it's there. Across the aisle is my son, 35 now, in a jacket that looks rented by the day, sitting beside his wife, Chelsea, who has a red blazer the color of stop signs. Their lawyer, a woman in a gray suit, who introduces herself as Ms. Lauren Reed, taps a pen against her legal pad like she's setting tempo for a song the rest of us don't know yet. Caleb's face is thinner than I remember. His jaw tightens when the judge, a woman named Carla Whitman, with silver hair and reading glasses on a pearl chain, says, "Mr. Parker, you've asked this court for custody of your children and for authority to manage their settlement accounts. Why now?" Caleb clears his throat. His voice has that steady, rehearsed quality I recognize from school plays and courtrooms. "Your Honor, I'm sober, I have a job, and my mother has prevented me from reuniting with my children. She's collected state money while alienating them from me. I'm asking the court to correct that and let me be their father." Behind me, Lily sits with her back straight, the braid I did this morning laid down like a cord of rope. Ben's sneakers don't reach the floor from the bench. He keeps his toes pointed. Little Nora has both hands on my purse strap as if she can hold me there with her fingers. I squeeze back. The wood of the bench is old and honest. I have sat on it before for other people's business, never thinking I'd be here for mine. Judge Whitman turns her eyes to me. "Mrs. Parker?" I lay my palm on the binder. "Your Honor, I didn't alienate anybody. I raised 3 children my son dropped on my porch in the rain and promised to pick up in a month. He didn't come back for years. He came back when there was money." "Objection to speculation," Ms. Reed says without looking at me, just at the judge. "Not speculation," I say, and my voice comes out steadier than my heart. "Documentation." The judge nods to me. "Let's start with your account, Mrs. Parker. 12 years ago, November, wind was blowing so hard you'd have sworn it was personal. It was Tuesday. I had ham and beans simmering on the stove because I had a coupon for ham hocks, and Ms. Edame from church had brought cornbread and said I looked thin, which I didn't, but I thanked her. The doorbell rang. I wiped my hands, opened the door, and there they were, the children. Lily 6, curls gone frizzy from the rain, Ben 4 with a runny nose and no coat, and baby Nora with a cough that whistled down in her chest. My son stood behind them, hood up. "Mom, I'm checking into rehab in Westerville. It's 30 days. Can you keep them?" He kissed each of their heads, swallowed hard, and said, "Thanks. I'll be back before Christmas. You'll see." Then he got in a car, and the headlights went away across my wet street like someone taken their promise with them. I do not look at him now. Looking at him turns me into two people, the woman who knows the damage and the mother who remembers stirring cocoa for a boy with a fever. Only one of those people can help these kids today. I called Children's Services the next morning, I go on. They told me to bring the kids down. We did our interviews, they made copies of their birth certificates, and told me to keep them out of school for 2 days while we got paperwork started. A social worker named Ms. Diaz, short hair, warm hands, brought me forms at my kitchen table and circled the lines where I needed to sign to become a kinship caregiver. I called the rehab to leave a message for Caleb. On day 8, they called back to say he had left against medical advice. I slide a sheet protector out of the binder and hand it to the bailiff. That's the rehab intake form and the discharge note. The dates line up with what I've just said. The judge skims, nods, looks back at me. Continue. Nora's cough turned to pneumonia on day 12. The hospital needed medical consent. Ms. Diaz drove us and stayed with me in the waiting room until midnight. We got temporary guardianship from this court so I could sign consent forms and enroll them in school. There's the order. Another plastic sleeve, another handoff. I am not rich. I am not even comfortable. I had my late husband's pension and Social Security and a $25 discount on my gas bill for having the thermostat installed by a certified contractor. For the children, I applied for kinship stipends. It was $292 a month, sometimes a little more with a clothing voucher, sometimes a little less when they adjusted income. Every penny went through my checking account at First Community. I reported it on my taxes like you're supposed to. The shoes they outgrew, the field trip money, the glue sticks, half those receipts are in here if anyone is bored later. A few quiet smiles flicker around the room that I don't aim for but accept. Christmas came. No sun at the door. New Year's. No sun. February, and I was taking Nora for ear tubes, and Lily had a school project about the state bird, and Ben was trying to sleep through the night without crawling into my bed like a heat-seeking missile. In March, we got a postcard with a deer on it and 2 sentences. "Keep 'em a little longer, Mom. I'm figuring stuff out." No return address. No phone number. I tucked it into my binder and then into my Bible, where I keep things I don't want to lose or think about. My throat tightens on those lines, and I stop to breathe so I can finish all the sentences I brought. The judge waits without hurrying me. 3 years after he left, the children's mother, Hannah, my former daughter-in-law, died at 28 in a factory accident in Groveport. She was a line worker at a plastics plant. The union rep at her memorial looked me in the eye and promised there would be a wrongful death settlement for the children. The funds would go into restricted accounts at the courthouse until the kids were 18, unless the court ordered otherwise. I nodded like I understood. I didn't. Not then. Miss Reed stands. Your Honor, tragic as that is, it is not to the point of today's petition. It's exactly to the point. I say, feeling the old church secretary in my spine. It is because nothing happened for years. The money sat where it sat, and we lived our little life. Then 6 weeks ago, the phone rang on a Wednesday morning exactly 9 minutes after my second cup of coffee. It was the union's claims office. The woman, polite, careful, asked if I could confirm a Social Security number for the children's father to facilitate early release of minor funds upon change of custody. I said, "Ma'am, I have no idea what you're talking about. There is no change of custody. I am their legal guardian." She thanked me and hung up. 2 days later, a man in a windbreaker handed me a stack of papers on my porch. That was my first clue, Your Honor. That call was a warning shot I didn't recognize until I felt the burn. I hand over a printed email with the union header and a call log from my phone. The judge reviews it and passes it to the clerk. "Your Honor," Miss Reed says, "my client is their biological parent. He is sober, employed, and he has a wife who is ready to provide stability. The grandmother has collected stipends, and we have evidence that she has made it difficult for Caleb to contact his children. We are asking the court to recognize that the best place for the children is with their father." The judge turns to me. "Have you interfered with contact, Mrs. Parker?" I pull a Ziploc bag from the binder and spill out envelopes onto the desk, thick ones with yellow stickers. These are letters I mailed to the last 4 addresses I had for Caleb when we moved from temporary to legal guardianship. 2 came back undeliverable, 1 refused, 1 no longer at this address. Here are phone logs. If you will look at August of 3 years ago, you'll see a number that called once and left no message. If there were blocked numbers, they were not blocked by me. Our phone plan doesn't even allow it on the landline. I sent holiday photos to the only email I had for him. Here are the printouts. I am not an IT department. I did my best." "I see it," the judge says after flipping through. "Go on." I turn to a section in the binder marked texts, and I hate that I have to say the next part out loud in front of my grandchildren and the people in the pews of the court. After the papers were served, Caleb texted me that if I would sign over custody, we could do it the easy way. Quote, "You get kinship back pay, I'll manage the kids' accounts, we'll all be comfortable." 2 days later, when I didn't respond, he texted me, "Don't make me tell the judge you blocked calls. I can say whatever I need to." The judge raises her eyebrows. "Mr. Parker?" Caleb rubs his jaw and looks down. "I was mad," he says. "It was stupid. I shouldn't have said that." The bailiff marks the texts as exhibits. The judge's pen pauses above her paper and then moves again. "Mrs. Parker," Miss Reed says, looking to make a hole big enough to slip through, "you receive state money. Isn't it true that you have a financial incentive to keep these children?" "My incentive," I say, "is the fact that Ben sleeps through the night now, and that did not happen by itself. My incentive is being the adult who shows up at the school when the asthma nurse calls because the inhaler is empty. The state stipend is a grocery receipt with a bureaucratic name and a stack of forms that make my hands cramp. It was diapers and cleats and cereal when cereal went up $1 a box. It was a 20 I slipped into Lily's backpack for a field trip so she would not have to ask her teacher for help. It was my sanity some months, and it never came close to the cost." Caleb's wife shifts in her chair and whispers something to him. He nods once, quick and angry. "Before we hear from the children," the judge says, "Mrs. Parker, is there anything else you want this court to consider?" There is, and I pull it from the back of the binder where it has rested under my mother's well-used recipe for pot roast and Tom's letter about DVR codes. It is a sealed envelope with my name written in Hannah's looping hand. Our pastor, Joe, handed it to me at her memorial with the kind of sadness you can't fake. "She gave me this 4 months ago in case something ever came up," he told me then. I took it home and set it on my nightstand and told myself I would only open it if I had no other choice. I slide it to the bailiff now. The judge opens it carefully and reads in silence. The clock in the hallway ticks. After a moment, Judge Whitman clears her throat. This letter, she says, is not a formal will, but it is a record of a mother's wishes. It says, in part, and I quote, "If anything happens to me, please keep the kids with Ruth until they're grown. Caleb is kind and funny, but he cannot manage money or himself for long. Do not let him near the kids' settlement. He will love them on Friday and disappear by Monday. Tell them I love them every day." The judge lays the letter down like glass. No one speaks. "Lily Parker, if you would like to speak, you may." Lily walks to the witness stand the way you walk in a dress that makes you feel older than you are. She raises her right hand, says, "I do," so softly the court reporter leans in to catch it. The judge asks if she remembers living with her father. "A little. Mostly I remember the day he said a month and then he didn't come back. I also remember Grandma teaching me to make chicken noodle soup from scratch with the good bouillon and carrots she cuts on a diagonal so they look pretty. I remember she brought me a new pack of crayons when I felt left out at a birthday party because the favors ran out. She sat in one of those folding chairs at every choir concert, even when her knees hurt. When Mom died, she put Mom's perfume on a cotton ball in a jar so I could smell her on hard days. I want to stay where my life is." The judge thanks her and asks if she'd like to add anything. Lily hesitates, then says, "I'd like to see my dad if it's safe and he's okay, but I don't want to move and start over again. I like my bus. I like my seat." Caleb gets up like someone tied a string to his back and pulled. He nods to the judge and bites his lip to keep it still. "I sleep good now," he says. "When I was little, I had bad dreams, and Grandma would put a hand on my back and hold still so I knew she was there. And I fell asleep like that. I want to stay. Maybe see Dad at church when it's not scary." Nora holds both hands to her chest like she's catching a bird. "I want pancakes," she says, then flushes and corrects herself. "I want to go home." "Thank you," the judge says. And the way she says it is kind. She turns to my son. "Mr. Parker, why did you file now?" Caleb lifts his shoulders and drops them. "I'm sober. I can do this. And yes, the money would help. We could get a bigger place, good schools." "Good schools begin with showing up," I say before I can stop myself. He flinches. It is not triumph I feel. It is grief that has been sitting on my couch for 12 years and has just stood up to stretch. The judge considers the papers on her bench, taps her pen twice, and speaks in a voice that could cut cake clean. "This court finds that Mrs. Parker stepped in appropriately, sought legal kinship guardianship through the proper channels, and has provided stability. Mr. Parker's involvement was minimal to non-existent for years. The trigger for this petition appears to be the potential release or management of settlement funds. That, taken together with threatening text messages, undermines my confidence in his stated motives." Miss Reed starts to speak. The judge raises her palm. "I'm not finished. Mrs. Parker, do you wish to seek charges related to coercion?" I look at my son. His head is down. He is the age now that his father was when we learned to live with less and sleep without the TV on. "No, Your Honor," I say. "I want boundaries. I want the children to be children. I don't want to spend their homework hours making copies for court." "Very well," Judge Whitman says. "Ruling as follows. This court confirms legal guardianship of Mrs. Ruth Ann Parker. The father's petition for custody is denied at this time. The children's settlement funds remain restricted and under court oversight until each child turns 18. Mr. Parker may have therapeutic, supervised visitation upon completion of a 12-week parenting program, proof of 6 months of sobriety, and compliance with any recommendations of children's services. Any pressure regarding funds shall result in immediate suspension of visitation. Court is adjourned. The gavel cracks and the sound loosens something inside me I didn't know I was bracing. Lily exhales. Ben looks like someone took a backpack off his shoulders. Nora whispers, "Pancakes?" And I tell her yes, pancakes, whipped cream, blueberries, the whole sorry mess we shouldn't eat on a weekday and will. In the hallway, a few people try not to stare. Pastor Joe says, "Ruth, you did good." And Minnie Harper from next door squeezes my hand so hard my rings press little half moons into my skin. Chelsea says to Caleb, not quietly, "We needed this, and you blew it." And he says nothing. Their footsteps echo down the corridor until the sound is just building noise. 3 months after the hearing, the farmer's market opens again, and Mrs. Etta May brings me heirloom tomatoes and says she knew that judge from Bible study once upon a time, and that woman always could see right through mess. We make chili for the church cook-off, no beans this time because Pastor Joe thinks it's a sin and likes to have a fight about it, and the youth group does a car wash to raise money for a mission trip to Kentucky, and Lily starts learning harmony, and Ben runs laps around the backyard like he's training to outrun whatever chased him when he was small, and Nora bangs out Ode to Joy on the old upright with both hands and her tongue stuck out in a pink point at the corner of her mouth. In April, Pastor Joe calls me at dinner time. "Ruth, I saw Caleb in the back row at Celebrate Recovery. He came late, left early, but he sat there, cried some." I stir the sloppy joes, listen to the sizzle, and fold that news into myself like a note I'm not ready to read aloud. "Thank you," I tell him. "I want to know the truth even when I don't like what it is." 2 weeks later, my phone rings with a number I don't know. I answer anyway. "Mom," Caleb says, voice small. "I can't see them yet, I know, but could you tell them I'm trying? I'm working nights at the parts warehouse and days I sleep, and then I go to meetings when I can stay awake. I don't know how to do all of this yet." I tell him, "You send me a picture of your 6-month chip and a letter from your sponsor and the certificate from parenting class. I will tell them there is proof to believe." He is quiet a little while. "I never meant to hurt anyone," he says. I lean against the counter and look at the magnet on my fridge that says, "Do the next right thing," a gift from Lily's Sunday school teacher. I say, "You meant to fix with money what you broke with abscess. Different tools." "Okay," he says, and no more than that. In June, a small padded envelope arrives with no return address. Inside is a keychain, silver whistle, and a note, "For when you need help, blow loud. Love, Dad." There's no demand, no court threat, no "please let me," just the whistle in my hand. Nora asks if she can keep it. I tell her she can, and we will talk to Miss Diaz about supervised visits when she is ready. "Not yet," she says, and I tell her that's fine. Not yet is a real answer. In August, we go back to school shopping with a list that reads like a garage inventory. Pencils, 5-subject notebook, headphones, Kleenex for the classroom, dry erase markers for the teacher, and enough glue sticks to build a shed. Lily picks spiral notebooks that match like an organized rainbow. Ben wants the binder with the football team he does not actually care about, but it is on sale and the rings click shut in a way that makes him grin, so we buy it. Nora takes 10 minutes to choose the exact right lunchbox, then sees a different one with glitter and tries to talk me into both. We leave with one. I have my mean grandma voice when I need it. In October, the county fair brings lemon shake-ups and pork chops on a stick and the sound of 1,000 kids carrying sugar in their bodies like fireworks. Lily sings harmony at a church service under a white tent, and the sound makes my eyes sting.
Afterward, we buy too many cheap prizes, and Ben wins a goldfish that will die in 3 days even if we do everything right. We name him Lucky and mean it. We eat elephant ears, wipe powdered sugar off our shirts with the backs of our hands, and stand too close to the demolition derby because we are those kind of people. On a Wednesday in November, a year to the week to the hearing, I pull the blue binder off the shelf and sit at the kitchen table. The plastic edge has another crack now where my thumb likes to rest. I take stock. The children's settlement accounts continue to sit where they should, at the courthouse, restricted. The monthly bank statement shows exactly what it always shows: pensions, Social Security, coupons doing their quiet work. In the back of the binder, I keep things that don't belong anywhere else. The small cotton ball in a jar with Hannah's perfume. A picture of Tom on the day he finished building the cedar planter box that still sits beneath our front window holding petunias like joy. The letter Hannah wrote and the copy the judge made of it. Caleb's texts and the printout that says exhibit, which makes me snort because whatever else he has never been an exhibit to me. I add one more thing to the back. It is a church bulletin with a scribble in the corner. Celebrate recovery, 8 o'clock, newcomer's room on the right. Pastor Joe handed it to me and said Caleb sat up front this time and spoke when it was his turn. He said he didn't know how to be a son or a father without being in charge, and he was learning to let go. I do not know what that will turn into next spring or 5 years from now. I know the names of his children, the smell of his daughter's hair when she cries, the way his boy's shoulders are shaped like his dad's and his grandfather's, and the small, bright, stubborn spark of his youngest when she stamps her foot and tells the truth that she is not ready yet. Sometimes I set my alarm early on Wednesdays. I put out 2 mugs even if there will only be one of us at the table, because hope has to be set like the coffee maker. I put the binder back on the shelf between the cookbooks and the Bible. I turn the porch light off with my own hand. I lock the deadbolt with my own thumb and feel the short click of it going where it belongs.
Love is not a deed anybody can file at the recorder's office. It is not a check that requires countersignatures. It is not an app you can run from your phone to lower someone else's thermostat because you say you're worried. Love is presence. It is pancakes on hard mornings and soft eyes across hard rooms. It is waiting with boundaries high and the gate open on Wednesdays at 2. It is not letting harm in. It is not letting harm wear your name and crawl into your bed. It is choosing over and over to stay and to keep your papers in order and your heart something like that too. On the night before Thanksgiving, the kids peel potatoes and we count blessings out loud. Ben says, "Coach picked me first for defense." And Lily says, "Mrs. Waller put my poem in the newsletter." And Nora says, "I can play Ode to Joy without sticking out my tongue now." And I say, "I didn't have to come up with money I don't have for a new water heater because the Lord sent one on sale." We eat turkey and dressing and the green bean casserole that relies on cream of mushroom soup like a religion. We take pies to Dot's Diner for the midnight pie drive they do for road workers and nurses. And the girl at the counter calls me Hun and hands me a free cup of coffee for the drive. And I take it because pride never kept anybody warm. The next Sunday after church, Pastor Joe corners me at the coat rack with the hangers that always tangle. "You're coming to the Christmas program, right?" he says, though he knows I am. "Lily's solo will knock you down." It does. She sings low and warm and strong, and the sound goes through me like a kind of medicine. Halfway through, I see Caleb slip into the back row. He keeps his hands in his pockets. He keeps his eyes down until the last verse, when everybody stands for Silent Night and the candles go around, and even the people who hate singing sing anyway. He hums. His shoulders shake once. I do not go to him. I do not motion for him to come. We meet eyes for a second, and it is Christmas,
and it is also 12 years of Tuesdays, and both are true. When we get home, I uncap the jar with Hannah's perfume and let the air fill with her one more time. I hold the jar out to Lily, and she closes her eyes and breathes. She loved us every day, Lily says. She did. And we will make the most of the days she gave us. We go to bed with full bellies and a house that smells like pine and laundry and something sweet cooling on the counter. Sometimes people ask me if I am really angry with my son. I tell them the truth. Anger is a fire that cooks supper if you watch it and burns your house down if you don't. I am tired of smelling like smoke. I will keep a small flame for what it is good for. I will keep my binder where I can reach it. I will keep my grandchildren's names in my mouth in the tone that teaches them they belong. I will keep my porch light on until 10, then off, because grown people can buy a flashlight. I will sleep, and if I wake, I will put on the coffee and take out 2 mugs. A year from now, maybe I will tell you that Caleb kept his chip and earned a new one and sat at our table on a Wednesday and stirred cream into his coffee and listened more than he spoke. Maybe I will tell you he fell and stood up and fell and stood up, and that the children learned that adults are not either saints or devils, but collections of choices with names. Maybe I will tell you nothing changed, and we still eat pancakes and fold laundry and keep our heads down and our hearts protected. Either way, the moral in me is settled and simple. Love is a verb with rules. Love is what you do consistently, and boundaries are how love keeps from breaking itself. I think about that gavel sometimes when the house is very quiet. How the sound made my bones feel like tuning forks. How it marked a line in time, before we could be taken, after we could not. I think about the woman who called from the union office on a Wednesday and didn't know she was sounding an alarm I would hear in my sleep for weeks. I think about how control often wears polite clothes and says it's here to help. I think about how betrayal often arrives with a plan and a pen. I think about how truth likes paper, dates and times and signatures that hold when a person's story slides around. I think about my binder. I think about my Bible. I think about my husband's letters written in tidy black print and how he told me when he was sick that paper is a slow armor and to wear it when I needed it. I wore it. It held. Outside, the maple drops the last of his leaves like a shrug. The wind rattles the window just enough to remind me I should tape plastic over the drafty side for winter. I set out 2 mugs. I check the porch light. I touch the blue binder with my fingertips before it goes back on its shelf. And I say out loud to the empty kitchen, because I have always been the sort of woman who says things out loud to empty rooms. We are all right, and we are.